Prosper Log. Show date 140726. The impossible has happened. Thanks to today's sponsor, as well as a gal I just met the other day named Christine Hope, the Prosper Facebook page has over 100 likes, and I would like to recognize David Whitmire as like number 100. David, thanks for liking the page, and I give you the Prosper salute. Now that I got that out of the way, let's talk about today's sponsor. This log entry is sponsored by Cat Sky. You can find her at www.facebook.com/life-in-the-moment-photography. I don't know about you. I've had a long day. I'm ready for a big beer. Ooh, this is a good one. Kwak, traditional Belgian ale, 8.4%. Yeah, the way I'm feeling right now, totally wiped. I'm gonna pass out once I'm done. All right, let's open this the proper way. Get rid of this guy. Pop the cork gently, gently. There we go. 45-degree angle right into the proper consumption apparatus. Ooh, look at that. That looks good. That looks so good. Josh Baker, I hope you're envious right now. Check out my good friend Josh at www.facebook.com/beer and song of the day. Well, cheers and beverage of choice to you, or as they might say in the Klingon Empire, kaplach. Oh my God, Josh, you were so right about that beer. Alright, let us get into the birthday, shall we? Birthday greetings this week go to Krystal Lloyd. Now, this is a gal I knew in jolly old England back several years ago. Krystal, here's thinking about you. Happy birthday. I hope things are going alright for you. And if not, I hope things are getting better for you. Krystal, here's the good times. Alright, next on the list. Josh Brooks. Now, this is a guy I know through my house commander. It's actually my house commander's best friend's husband, April. April's my house commander's best friend. But Josh, man, I love hanging out with you and your wife and your family every time we're home together back in Indiana. Life here on Earth Station Okinawa is treating me pretty good. Josh, let's drink one together. Alright, next up, my own dear cousin, Zach Hawk. Now, Zach's one of those cousins that you see every now and then. Zach, I hope life's treating you well. I hope your family's doing alright. And here, I drink with you. Alright, next on the list. Now, these next two guys are people that I have worked with in the last 2 years. First one, Edwin Guadalupe. Lupe! How you doing, buddy? I saw you took a little trip to Bible camp not too long ago. I hope life's treating you well in good old Germany. Eddie, let's drink. This next guy I work with here at Earth Station Okinawa. Lee Anthony. Lee, how you doing, bud? Glad you had a good birthday this past week. Man, you left me a pile of shit today. That's all I gotta say. But hey, we made it. Alright, next on the list. This is another guy that a couple of years ago I went through a class with that made me more professional. Didn't work. Marcus Kripe. Kripe! How you doing, buddy? Holy crap, it's a crapple. Hope life's treating you well. Hope things are going well for you. And are you still in good old Germany? I hope so. Man, get you one of these quacks and enjoy some with me. Next on the list. Now, this is a gal I went to high school with. She graduated a year before the best graduating class ever. Ever. Freaking ever. Stephanie Shekels. Stephanie, you're living out in the sandbox in Arizona now. Hope life's treating you okay. Oh, excuse me. Hope things are going well for you. Good to see you're active on the old fart book. Here's one for you. Alright. Next on the list. My own stepbrother, Brandon Riggs. Brandon, how you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you since Thanksgiving in Indiana. Hope things are going well for you. Hope life's treating you well. And man, happy birthday. Next on the list. A good friend of mine that I met when my house commander and I were on vacation. Hold on. Darn dog wanted one. Evelyn Vale. Evelyn, how you doing, sunshine? Hope life's treating you well. Lucky wanted to say hi. Say hi, Lucky. Say hi. Say hi. Oh, I love you. Oh, notice what Lucky's wearing. Yep, I got him a science officer collar. You're a good boy, Lucky. Lucky says hi and happy birthday. And hell, well, I'll drink one. And last but not least, my old nephew, Austin Hardy. Austin, how you doing, bud? I hope you're doing okay. I really do. I hope things straighten out for you. Austin, you're too young to be drinking, so I'll say cheers and root beer. Alrighty. Yep, that's it for my birthdays. I already gave Like 100 a shout out. All right, Lucky. All right. You gonna ride shotgun with me, huh? All right. I gotta give some love to a new friend of mine, Christine Hope. Christine runs the group Live Long and Prosper on Facebook. Look them up. Look them up. Excuse me. Look them up. Like the group. Join the group. Excuse me. And by golly, spread the word. Christine, thank you for letting me share my link on your in your group. And if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have broken 100 likes. I drink. All right. We had a Star Trek birthday today. It was actually today. Nana Visitor. Who's she known for, you might ask? Major and later Colonel Kara on Deep Space Nine. She turns 57 today. A little known fact about her was that she and Deep Space Nine co-star Alexander Siddig, although that's not his real name, ended up getting together while they were on Deep Space Nine. Ended up having a kid. I salute that. But at the same time, it didn't work out. It's just another one of those celebrity couplings that didn't work out. Hey, what can you do? That happens sometimes. But Nana, happy birthday. All right. Well, today's featured episode is the second pilot from the Star Trek original series, Where No Man Has Gone Before. Basically, what happens is Captain Kirk and the Enterprise go through the galactic barrier, and 9 people on the ship die as a result of going through the barrier. Navigator, Lieutenant Commander Gary Mitchell, and Dr. Elizabeth Daner both inherit godlike powers. Gary right away, and Daner not until later. They eventually go to Delta Vega so they can pilfer supplies and hardware for the ship, re-energize the warp drive, and strand Mitchell on the planet. However, at the end of this episode is a bare-knuckle fist fight between Captain Kirk and Gary Mitchell. Ultimately, Captain Kirk defeating Mitchell. The episode ends with Captain Kirk closing out their service records as having died in the line of duty. Spock admits that he felt for Mitchell too, to which Kirk looks over and says, "I believe there's some hope for you after all, Mr. Spock." And with that episode, Gene Roddenberry brought Star Trek to life. That was actually a second chance. Let me get into my notes. This was the second Star Trek pilot. However, it aired as the third regular series episode after The Man Trap and Charlie X. In their book, Inside Star Trek, The Real Story, Robert H. Justman and Herbert F. Solow explained that because this segment was too expository in nature, a common fault with pilots, it would not have made a good premiere episode for the series. Although NBC rejected The Cage, they felt that the series concept was strong enough to give Star Trek a second chance, despite having already spent an exorbitant $630,000 on the first pilot. That was a lot of money back then. Excuse me. I wish I had the inflated equivalent of $630,000 today. You think I'd be doing what I do now? Hell no. I got something for you that think I would. Kids, look, a deer! The network ordered 3 scripts, from which they would choose one to be developed into an unprecedented second pilot. The 3 scripts were The Omega Glory by Gene Roddenberry, Mud's Women by Roddenberry and Stephen Kandel, and Where No Man Has Gone Before by Samuel A. Peoples. The advantage of The Omega Glory... What the hell's your problem? Alright, come on. Alright, you gotta get down. She's gonna sit there and be a grump. You gotta get down. Sorry, buddy. Ah, crap. The advantage of The Omega Glory was that it showcased Roddenberry's parallel worlds concept. It could be filmed using existing studio sets on the backlot as well as stock wardrobes. Mud's Women was mainly a shipboard tale and could also be shot using the existing Enterprise sets left over from The Cage. In addition, had to let the other dog in. In addition, both required a minimum of new outer space effects shots. You want to say hi, Windsor? Come on. Oh. This is my other dog, a.k.a. my cat, Windsor. I'm kidding. I'm sorry, honey. Here, I'll give myself one of these. Good boy. Good boy. All right, hop down. Hop down. Okay, I got lost. All right. In addition, both required a minimum of new outer space effect shots. However, Mud's Women guest starred in Intergalactic Pimp, selling women throughout the galaxy, exactly what NBC did not want. And The Omega Glory wasn't very good. The network finally chose Where No Man Has Gone Before, which, although it required many new special effects, sets, props, and costumes, was the most powerful and compelling of the 3 scripts. Good choice. Uh-oh. Empties the brain cells of the average Patriots fan. Hang on. Reload. I don't think there's a Vulcan word for cheers. Cat Thompson, look into that. Please. Oh, man, I'm going to be having some issues here in a little bit. There is a different pre-broadcast cut of this episode in the archives of the Smithsonian Institution. This unique cut involves a few brief scenes trimmed from the aired cut of the episode. Hang on. Both of them are out now. This unique cut includes a few brief scenes trimmed from the aired cut of the episode, different opening titles, and a unique opening and closing theme. The alternate themes can be heard on the GNP Crescendo CD Star Trek Original Series Volume 1, The Cage / Where No Man Has Gone Before. Excuse me. The pre-broadcast cut was originally available only in bootleg form, although it has been screened at numerous conventions and is now finally available commercially on the Season 3 Blu-ray set. James Doohan was credited as engineer, Paul Fix as ship's doctor, George Takei as physicist, and Paul Carr as navigator in the end credits of the original cut. Leave that door cracked so you can go in and out as you choose. The different title sequence resulted from the fact that the main responsible visual effects director, Darrell Anderson, of effects company Howard Anderson Company, suffered a nervous breakdown brought on by the stress he was under to deliver the opticals in time and on budget, as Justman recalled when he and Roddenberry came calling in August 1966 on the status of the Enterprise footage for the title sequence. We had seen maybe 6 good shots and some others that were partially unusable. We had expected many more angles, some of which were badly needed for the series' main title. "Where's all the other shots, Darrell?" Darrell began to shake. He jumped to his feet, screaming, "You'll never make your first air date!" Bursting into tears, he ran out of the room, still screaming, "You'll never make your first air date! You'll never make your first air date!" What a little weenie. Gene sat there in shock. I raced after Darrell and caught him outside. He was weeping, and no wonder. We later found out that he had been working both day and night for months, trying to satisfy our needs. That afternoon, Darrell went to Palm Springs for a rest cure. Well then, if I'd have known he was working day and night, I wouldn't have called him a weenie. Roddenberry and Justman managed to compose a title sequence from the footage already shot the same day. The more sophisticated title sequence was produced, with Anderson returning to his duties after the pilot was approved to become a regular series. The aired version of this episode features a different version of the first season opening credits, which does not have William Shatner's opening narration, and uses a different orchestration of the main and end title themes. These orchestrations were used until mid-season during the original run and the initial syndication showings. However, in the 1980s, Paramount withdrew the prints from syndication and redistributed remastered and pre-cut episodes with standardized opening and closing credit music for the first season, using the Fred Steiner arrangement created for the back half of the season. These remastered prints were also used in their uncut form from the video and Laserdisc releases. Only this episode was permitted to keep the original Alexander Courage arrangement. The 1999 DVD volumes and later season sets, however, restored the opening credits to their original form, while leaving the end credits in their altered state. Again, except for this episode, which remains as originally aired. Alright, here's one some of you probably didn't know. The original narration spoken by Shatner was Enterprise log, Captain James Kirk commanding. We are leaving that vast cloud of stars and planets which we call our galaxy. Behind us, Earth, Mars, Venus, even our sun are specks of dust. The question? What is out there in the black void beyond? Until now, our mission has been that of space law regulation, contact with Earth colonies, and investigation of alien life. But now, a new task, a probe out into where no man has gone before. After NBC saw this episode, they were pleased with the results and decided that Star Trek would be a weekly television series. Gene Roddenberry said that, like The Cage, where no man has gone before, still had a lot of science fiction elements in it. But it was the bare-knuckle fist fight between Kirk and the godlike Gary Mitchell that sold NBC on Star Trek. Darn right. What? Lucky, get down. Your blubber's jealous. Come on. Get. Okay, you guys lay down. After NBC saw this episode... Did I read that already? Nope. After NBC saw this episode, they were pleased with the results and decided that Star Trek would be a weekly television series. Gene Roddenberry said that... Yep, I already read it already. Hang on. Okay. The Next Generation adopted a gender-neutral and species-neutral version of this episode's title for their episode, Where No One Has Gone Before. This episode sets the original series record for most Enterprise crew members killed. 12. Mitchell, as I mentioned earlier, Daner, as I mentioned earlier, Kelso, and the 9 who Spock says died when crossing the galactic barrier. Kirk says he's been worried about Mitchell ever since that night on Deneb 4. Coincidentally, or not, TNG's pilot episode, Encounter at Farpoint, takes place on Deneb 4, home of the Bandy. Home of the Bandy. Yes, it was the Bandy, not the Bandai, the Bandy. And why the hell is it spelled with an I and not an E? Hey kids, look, a deer! That's all I gotta say about that. Gary Mitchell states that Nightingale Woman poem was written in 1996 and that it is one of the most passionate love sonnets in the last couple of centuries. Taken literally, this line of dialogue seems to suggest that where no man has gone before takes place no later than the end of the 22nd century, which in turn would imply that the Valiant was launched during the 20th century. Excuse me. In reality, the poem, My Love Has Wings, was written by Gene Roddenberry about his World War II airplane. Yes, Gene Roddenberry was a pilot in World War II. I believe he held the rank of, I think he made it all the way to first lieutenant? I could be wrong. Somebody double check that and comment down there. Bob Justman anticipated that the second pilot would take 9 days to shoot. However, after the Cage went severely over schedule and budget, Desilu's old guard executives worried about the same situation regarding the second pilot. Hang on. To avoid these fears, where no man has gone before, was scheduled to be filmed in 7 days. The old guards skeptically expected that it would take 10 or even 11 days. Filming began on Monday, 19 July 1965. As expected, filming the pilot went over schedule, finally resulting in 8 days and an extra day of shooting pickup shots and inserts. 9 days, exactly as Justman expected. Just as The Cage, the second pilot was filmed at Desilu's Culver City Studios. For the series itself, the entire production was moved to Desilu's main Gower Streets facilities in Hollywood. On the 5th day of filming, Friday, 23 July 1965, a swarm of bees attacked the set, causing a delay in filming, and injuries to William Shatner and Sally Kellerman, who were both stung by bees. Hope none of them were allergic. The gravestone Mitchell creates for Kirk says, James R. Kirk. According to D.C. Fontana in the introduction for Star Trek, the classic episodes 1, when the mistake was discovered, Gene Roddenberry decided that if pressed for an answer on the discrepancy, the response was to be, Gary Mitchell had godlike powers, but at base he was human. He made a mistake. The gravestone also suggests an important event marked C took place on stardate 1277.1. Kirk may have assumed command of the Enterprise on this stardate. Their crew files show that Mitchell and Daner were born in cities called Delman and Eldman. Imagine that. Looks like somebody just flip-flopped the letters. In this episode, the helm console from the bridge was moved to the transporter set to double as a transporter console. Thus, the 3 levers used to energize are not yet in place. Didn't you ever wonder why Scotty was pushing buttons instead of going... A bit of the transporter chamber was changed from the cage. The center of the ceiling was hollowed out, allowing white light to pour down onto the platform when the materializer was not in operation. When the materializer was not in operation. After this episode, however, the dark, grilled ceiling from the cage was restored and remained in place throughout the series. Now, why would you refit something like the transporter? By removing something like that and then putting it back in? I don't understand. Hey kids, look, a deer! The phaser rifle that Kirk uses appears for the first and only time in the series. However, it can be seen on many pre-season 1 promotional photographs. Now, why would you do something like that? Why would you bring out a rifle and only show it one freaking time? You'd think in one of those episodes where you had, maybe dangerous criminals, maybe like on Elba 2, you would show it again and again by all the security officers. But no! Whatever. Hey, if I'd wrote that episode, security guards would have had phaser rifles. In this episode, the sickbay walls are green. The alert light on the helm console is of a different shape in this episode. Imagine that. I guess they must have changed that at the same time they changed the view screen when it put back into space dock after the events of trying to go through the barrier. Spock's phaser closely represents the ones used in the cage. I hope so. Kirk's communicator does the same thing. Memory Alpha, you missed that one. Memory Alpha, I love you, but... Oh, hey kids, look, a deer! This episode features the gooseneck tubes also used in the cage. Remember Captain Kirk's chair? He had that little TV screen that kind of up like this off the armrest. He even pulled it up and turned the knob so that he could make that final log entry of the episode. Yep, that's the gooseneck. Alright, here's a good one for y'all. It was the first appearance of Trek mainstays Kirk, Sulu, Scott, and Leslie. Yes, Leslie was in there. And yes, he even wore 2 colors in this episode. He wore the gold/tan color while he was in the crew lounge, and while on Delta Vega, he wore blue. 2 colors in the same episode. But he wasn't a regular. Other regulars, McCoy and Uhura, would not appear until the next episode. Now, hang on. There's something funny. There's something I'm going to mention. It's not exactly funny, but there's something I'm going to mention about Uhura here in a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me get there. Oh, that's good. Josh Baker, I love you on that one. Leonard Nimoy is the only actor to appear in both this episode and the first pilot, The Cage. He played Spock in both episodes, obviously. His pointed ears are a bit smaller than in the first pilot, and his eyebrows are severely slanted, yet not as bushy as in The Cage. Most importantly, his hairstyle is reworked to show the bangs typical of his race, and that of eventual nemesis, the Romulans. We'll get into that later. William Shatner was actually the 3rd actor to be considered for the role of James T. Kirk. Jack Lloyd and Lloyd Bridges were each offered the role before him. Excuse me, Jack Lord. Oh man, that Kwak's getting to me. Let me stop for a second. Can you imagine Lloyd Bridges playing Captain Kirk? Seriously, can you imagine that? I hear the name Lloyd Bridges. I think Admiral Benson off of Hot Shots, the Hot Shots movies. That goofy bastard playing Captain Kirk. I'm sorry, I love Lloyd Bridges, but I'm glad that the casting director decided to pass on him. Sorry, Lloyd Bridges, I love you and everything, but you would not have made Captain Kirk. Good. You know what? For Lloyd Bridges, I give the prosperous salute. May he rest in peace. Okay. Back to where I was. Veteran character actor Paul Fix got the role of the ship's doctor, replacing John Hoyt. Gene Roddenberry wanted to cast DeForest Kelley in the part, whom he originally wanted to play Dr. Boyce in The Cage. Then, he was outruled by director Robert Butler's suggestion. Robert Butler, hey kids, look, a deer! I'm only doing that because I don't have a GFY yet. Josh Baker, help a brother out. Here again, Fix was recommended by director James Goldstone. Roddenberry thought Fix didn't work out well in the role and decided that if Star Trek became a weekly series, he would cast Kelly as the ship's doctor. Well, it's a good thing he did. Sorry, Paul Fix, you may be a good actor and everything, but I'm glad you didn't work out for Star Trek. Because if you had, I don't know. DeForest Kelley, I love you. May you rest in peace. DeForest Kelley, I give you one of those. Yeah, I'll cover him later. Andrea Drom replaced Laurel Goodwin in the role of the Captain's Yeoman. According to Herb Solow and Bob Justman, her role was actually a non-part, and Roddenberry claimed he cast her so he could score with her. First off, what the hell is a non-part? It sounds to me like Roddenberry cast her so that he could film her scenes and then cut them. Now, yes, Gene, she was hot. She did look pretty good. But, I'm sorry, I gotta do it. Look, a deer! They added, it was not just a non-part, but a non-score as well. Ha ha! Drom didn't return to the series and was replaced by Grace Lee Whitney as Yeoman Rand. Roddenberry, Solow, and NBC were all happy about the casting of Lloyd Haynes as Communications Officer Alden. Haynes was one of the first African Americans hired to play an important role in a network series pilot. However, he was not rehired for the series itself, as the production staff saw the role was dull and uninteresting. Dude, really? You have an African American male that you could have, well, on the other hand, yes, I see why. Because if you hadn't, you wouldn't have been able to work with Nichelle Nichols' awesome singing talents. On the one hand, yes. Excuse me. On the other hand, no. I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Ultimately, it worked out, but at the same time, you didn't give the man a chance. This is the only episode of the series in which James Doohan, who plays Scotty, appears, but DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, does not. That's a good trivia question right there. Excuse me. This is the only episode where Spock and Scotty wear gold and tan tunics instead of their better-known red and blue, respectively. Now, before I go on, I want you all to take note of something. Notice the color of my shirt. Okay? Now, I want you to notice the division represented on my chest. Okay? I'm wearing a red shirt, which is mainly operations, with a science division patch, which is mainly on a blue shirt, for those of you that don't know Star Trek. This is the only episode of the original series to have them flip-flopped. Look, don't believe me? Look at Sulu up close. Look at his emblem up close on his blue shirt, and then look at Kelso, who's supposed to be in the operations division. Look at his emblem. Memory Alpha, I got you on one. The matte painting of the lithium cracking station was created by matte artist Albert Whitlock for this episode. A still exists showing the entire landing party in the doorway within the matte, but only the shot of Kirk and Daner ended up being used. Hang on. Uh-oh. Empty as the brain cells of the average Cowboys fan. I'm almost out. Uh-oh. I'm almost out. I gotta make this last. Folks, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm gonna be sober by the time this one's over with. The matte painting would later be altered and reused in Dagger of the Mind. The image of the matte painting would appear on the March 1953 issue of the Incredible Tales magazine in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Far Beyond the Stars. Hang on. Go on. Yeah. Film trickery enabled Kirk, Spock, and Mitchell's elevator ride to look like an actual ride from one deck to another, without relying on editing. When Mitchell jumped in, there was a gray wall outside the door that hid the bridge set. When the doors closed, the wall was removed by the stage crew. And then, seconds later, they're on the bridge. The turbo lift in the background after this scene sports double doors, like modern elevators. The inner one is gray and the outer one is red. This feature would survive into the Corbomite maneuver, and at least until Tomorrow is Yesterday, but then was phased out. Must have happened after a refit. The voices of damage control personnel responding to emergency situation were reused many times in subsequent episodes. These voices were provided by Gene Roddenberry, Bob Justman, Majel Barrett, Herb Solow, and other production staff members, including some from Mission Impossible. Roddenberry can be heard saying, "Communicator, we need more lines to the impulse deck" in subsequent episodes. Except for the shot of the Enterprise leaving the barrier, which was shot using the 3-foot unlighted model, all other ship flybys were produced by using the 11-foot model used in all subsequent episodes. At the time, this model still had no sparkling effects on the front of the nacelles. It also had a larger sensor dish, grills on the backs of the nacelles, and not many lighting effects. This footage was reused in later episodes, often mixed with shots of the improved model that is on display in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum gift shop. In the standard side-to-side flyby, 2 lights on the angled pylon, which connect the 2 hulls, go out, followed 1 second later by 2 near the shuttle bay. The original bridge zoom-in Enterprise shot from the beginning of The Cage is reused from stock footage for this episode, making it the only shot from the original pilot to appear in the second one. The same shot is also used when the Enterprise hits the barrier with added purple background and lightning effects. Stock footage of the Enterprise in the barrier was reused in By Any Other Name and Is There in Truth No Beauty. A print of the pre-broadcast version of this episode was taken by Roddenberry to the annual World Science Fiction Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, to be presented to the convention goers. This marked Star Trek's first showing to the general public on 4 September 1966. Alan Escherman, author of the Star Trek Compendium, was present among the audience. He recalled, "There must have been 500 people in that audience. When the Enterprise hit the galactic barrier, 1,000 eyes opened wide. 500 respiratory rates accelerated with that wonderful pleasure that comes over lovers of all things when they see their favorite subject being treated well. If he, being Roddenberry, could have read our minds at any moment during the screening, he would have been the happiest producer in the world. Here was a future it did not hurt to imagine. Here was a constructive tomorrow for mankind, emphasizing exploration and expansion." It was a science fiction television series we all wanted to see. We were extremely impressed. In fact, we liked everything about the episode more than anything else shown at the convention. Imagine that. Roddenberry seemed to have no idea of the effect his show was having on us. He asked for the audience's opinion. We gave him a standing ovation. He smiled, and we returned the smile before we converged him. We came close to lifting the man upon our shoulders and carrying him out of the room. Almost godlike. It's like he knew. Later, a group of the audience asked Roddenberry if he had brought any other episodes of Star Trek with him. He had a black and white copy of The Cage, which was then screened to the audience. Herb Solow commented on Gene's success, where No Men, unlike the other television and theatrical films screened, was well received. The science fiction aficionados at the convention were entranced by the new show. But in 4 days, the series would premiere on television to a national audience that thought science fiction was comic books of busty women being dragged away by alligator people, or a giant purple blob intent on dissolving Tokyo. What's wrong with an ape dragging away a woman with big boobs? Come on now. Hang on. Who made that stereotype? Kids, look, a deer! Yo Trimble and her husband, John, I hope I got that right. Mrs. Trimble, if I didn't, I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. I do the best I can. But anyway, her and her husband John were members of the audience at the convention, and it was the first time they'd met Roddenberry. They persuaded him to allow the Star Trek costumes he brought along to be displayed during the fan-made costume competition. Here's one I'll bet nobody knew. Isaac Asimov was also a member of the audience. At the start, Roddenberry shushed a loud man to be silent, not knowing that the man was actually Asimov. Really? You're going to do that to a sci-fi legend like that at the time? I'll tell you, Gene Roddenberry had him some hella cojones back in the day. Gene Roddenberry, for that, it's fitting I do this. In the same episode where I gave you one of these. Here we go. Here's some backstory about the tombstone. An alternate explanation for the James R. Kirk reference is given in Peter David's novel Q Squared, which suggests that the events of this episode take place in a parallel universe where Kirk's middle initial is indeed R, and not T as we now know it to be. The same book suggests that Gary Mitchell's godlike powers were a result of him being temporarily possessed by Q, and the powers simply drove Mitchell insane. Wait a minute, hang on. No, I'll cover this later. You want to know what I was going to say, don't you? You're going to have to wait till later. I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait. Another explanation for the R as Kirk's middle initial comes from Michael Jan Friedman's 3-part novel series, My Brother's Keeper. In it, Kirk claims his middle name to be Racquetball to Mitchell upon an early meeting. Later, Mitchell changes it to Rhinoceros after Kirk steamrolls through a conversation. The grave is thus explained by Kirk as an in-joke. That actually makes sense. Several various novels and comics have suggested that the little blonde lab technician that Mitchell set Kirk up with was Carol Marcus. That's going to come into play later. Trust me. Alrighty. Got through the episode notes. Coming soon, I'm going to show you all that I am indeed a football fan as preseason kicks off. Well, I don't know about y'all, but it's time for me to slam this. Empty as a brain cells the average Patriots fan. Folks, I had a long shift tonight. I am just like Tom Brady in the Super Bowl playing Eli Manning. I am frickin' beat. It's time for me to get out of here. That being said, y'all have a good night and day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, name it after me. Don't drink and drive because you might spill your drink, but more importantly, you might kill yourself. And more importantly than that, you might kill somebody else. And drinking and driving is dumber than being a Patriots fan. And what's worse than that is rooting for idiot crybabies like Tom. Giselle won't let me go to the Pro Bowl. Brady, men slapping women, animal abuse, racism, fake friends, people that welch on bets, or anybody that supports, defends, or is a member of the Westboro Baptist Church. Anybody like that is just plain stupid. I don't have time for it. And you get one of these. Oh, hey kids, look, a deer. You want to know how against animal abuse I am? Look at this guy. Come here, Windsor. Windsor, come here. Come here. Something I haven't done on Prosper yet. Sign off with my boys. This is Windsor. I love you too, Lucky. Now, folks, anybody that likes to abuse animals deserves what I just gave Tom Brady fans. But yes, I love animals. I love them with all my heart. I feel like Bob Barker. I feel like throwing out a Bob Barker. Help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. I almost said and or neutered. But let me tell you, folks, I am not feeling sober. I had a long night. I'm about to drop like a bad habit. So, until next week, I will see you all later. Live long and prosper.